Chapter 1 Awakening. Mark Grayson rose with the sun, the sharp, mechanical beep of his alarm slicing through the veil of sleep. Rubbing his eyes, he slipped out of bed, letting the chill of the apartment floor wake him fully. Routine guided him through the motions. A hot shower to clear his mind, a scarf of cereal and cold milk to fill his stomach. Every morning was predictable, a reflection of his life thus far, yet today, the world seemed off-kilter. Stepping outside, crisp air greeted him, and he took in the rhythmic humdrum of the city. The cars streaming by, the dull march of pedestrian feet, the murmur of voices. That murmur, however, did not dissipate like background noise. It hovered at the edge of his awareness, persistent, invasive, like a radio station just out of tune. He paused, frowning at the sensation creeping into his brain. A feeling like fingers trailing across the unseen depths of his mind. Shaking his head, he continued onward, dismissing it as remnants of sleep. His destination was the diner at the corner where Hannah, the waitress, always had his coffee ready. But as he walked, the murmur grew louder, not just sound but words, thoughts scattered and fragmented.
A child worried his dog was sick, an old man missing his wife, a woman contemplating a job offer.
Thoughts not his own, weaving into the fabric of his consciousness. Mark halted, heart pounding in his chest. Was he going mad? Glancing around, he tried to pinpoint the source, but there was no one broadcasting, no eerie figures whispering secrets. It was as if the world itself was speaking directly to him, inhaling deeply. Mark pressed on, reaching the diner with trembling hands.
Hannah
greeted him warmly, setting the cup of coffee before him. He usually found solace in its dark depths, but today, the chatter, the whispers enveloped him.
Hannah's own thoughts seeped through, her longing to leave behind the monotony, the flickering hope of a new beginning elsewhere.
He looked at her, brows furrowing, and she met his gaze with a small, tired smile. Unwittingly, Mark tuned into the drone of the cafe, the intimate battles and echoed dreams of strangers mingling like smoke. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, leaving him breathless and curious. This whispering chaos was his to explore, and despite the discomfort, he could not help but feel a pull toward understanding this new, terrifying gift. Chapter 2 Discoveries. Mark sat in the back of the diner, cradling his cup, the warmth seeping through to his fingers as he absorbed the deluge of thoughts surrounding him. It felt like standing in the eye of a storm, the voices looping around while he remained still. Caught between intrigue and dread biting his lip, he concentrated, attempting to tune into individual streams. It took effort, as if adjusting the dials on an ancient radio. Yet soon, the tumult turned into distinct voices, each carrying its own tone and weight. A man in a booth near the window worried about money, the stress gnawing at him until his coffee tasted bitter. Behind the counter, Hannah's concerns painted her daydreams in shades of doubt and uplift. And above their whispers, a silent thrill began to creep into Mark's veins.
He didn't understand how it was happening, but he found he couldn't look away from this unfolding tapestry. Lives entwined, knotted with secrets, and he was privy to it all. The power thrummed beneath his skin, amplifying with each thought that flitted across his mindscape.
Sliding out of the booth, Mark left the diner, contemplating his boss,
Mr. Callahan.
An arrogant man with a habit of dismissing Mark's potential. Today, however, Mark felt bold, the swirling cacophony a reminder of the unseen cards he had yet to play. Entering his office, the usual monotony of paperwork greeted him. Yet, amid the dullness of tasks, he reached into Callahan's mind. The Mont's consciousness revealed truths buried beneath a polished veneer, whispers of deals and figures misaligned in the shadowy dance of embezzlement. Mark's heart raced, faster and faster, a drum pounding against the backdrop of chaos. With each revelation, he felt layers of an intricate game unfurling. Visions of leverage and influence glimmered on the horizon, tempting him forward.
Lost in this spiraling web, a part of Mark hesitated. Was it right to wield this spectral power, to manipulate lives at the flick of a thought? Yet the intrigue, the intoxication was undeniable, a song he could not silence.
Turning back to his work, he felt the echoes pressing closer, daring him to peel back more layers, to follow the whispers into the heart of the storm. And as he gazed at the world anew, he realized there was no retreat from the chaos that whispered his name. Chapter 3 Manipulation. Emboldened by his discoveries, Mark embraced this intoxicating new world where thoughts flowed like water between his fingers. It wasn't just hearing them anymore, it was knowing them, feeling them, using them. In the quiet space of his mind, he crafted plans, weaving anticipation and manipulation together like a master craftsman. He wanted more than the monotony of everyday life, an existence that offered only whispers of what could be. Now, however, he held a tool unlike any other, and with it, he intended to reshape his reality.
At lunch he approached Lisa, his girlfriend, a tether of warmth and familiarity in his life. Her laughter was like sunlight, but the clarity of her thought was a muted tone beneath it, painted with uncertainty.
Mark flinched at the flash of her anxiety, a conflict she hadn't dared to voice. It made him think critically.
If he could smooth her worries with a touch of mental suggestion, could he shape her perception as he saw fit?
It was a temptation too sweet to resist.
Subtly, he began to thread conversations with suggestions, careful nudges disguised as gentle reassurances. Her expression softened, her laughter less brittle, drawing her closer to him. It was exhilarating to wield so much influence, to craft little nuances in their lives.
Yet in this web of control, self-doubt flickered at the edges, whispering warnings of unintended consequences. But the whispers were easier to drown out when a certain kind of chaos coursed through his veins, promising more, always more. Days turned to weeks, and Mark continued his secret dance of control, his fingers brushing across minds and altering paths.
If he could nudge his boss into revealing his illegal dealings, why not ensure his own rise by dealing the cards perfectly?
The pressure grew, but so did Mark's confidence, each success another step toward a vision unfurling before him. He stood at the forefront, the orchestrator of delicate symphonies, an architect of chaos. With every manipulation, the world seemed more malleable, largely within his grasp. Obstacles bent to his will, people moved in rhythms he orchestrated. Yet below that surface of triumph, shadows lingered, a reminder that every thought woven by his hand had threads tied elsewhere. Chapter 4, Betrayal. Mark's ascent through the framework of lies and influence continued, each step deliberate, calculated. But with power came the challenge of maintaining balance. The whispers of chaos to which he had grown accustomed now threatened the fragile stability of the web had woven. And it all began with Trevor. Trevor, Mark's closest friend since college, held secrets as well kept as Mark's own. Their bond was firm, unyielded by time or circumstance, yet curiosity, driven by this power, nudged Mark in directions previously uncharted. A chance encounter at a bar over drinks and reminiscence revealed a fragmented thought Mark didn't expect: betrayal.
Mark froze, disbelief flaring like a spark through his mind, turning the comfortable rhythm of their conversation into jagged dissonance. Yet Trevor's thoughts persisted, broadcasting images of deceit.
The weight of Trevor's latent treachery was staggering, overshadowing even the thrill Mark felt when uncovering Callahan's embezzlement. It was personal, cutting deeper than any impersonal betrayal could. Mark's grip tightened around his glass, his mind a whirl of chaos. Outwardly, he maintained his sectionade, yet inwardly, the whispers urged him, demanded retribution. They painted Trevor in hues of falseness, shattering bonds once thought unbreakable. The betrayal became a lens through which Mark viewed everything, a single thread unraveling an entire fabric. Questions Mark hadn't dared consider rose to the forefront.
How long had Trevor woven this deceit, and why?
The answers lay beneath layers of mind and thought, yet Mark felt compelled, drawn by the necessity of knowing. He peered deeper, tuning into Trevor's thoughts in a way he hadn't dared before. Yet, in doing so, a revelation unfolded, sudden and cruel. Trevor, in fact, wasn't betraying Mark. The betrayal was his own, crafted by projecting his insecurities onto Trevor. The horror of this self-realized truth built tension in Mark's chest, a firm reminder of how the power he wielded had led him astray. The whispers, once his compass, became his tormentors, sowing doubt where there was clarity, chaos where there was order. With the foundation of his friendship cracked, Mark faced the realization that his manipulations, fueled by whispers, had begun to corrode more than just others' lives. They chipped away at the very essence of who he was, whispering promises that turned into shackles around his spirit. Chapter 5, Consequences. Reflecting on his fractured friendship with Trevor, Mark felt the constriction of chaos taking root deeper within him. It was a bitter truth, an acknowledgement of how far had fallen under the lure of whispers and power. But consequences stir not just within, and in the silence that followed his self-revelation, Mark felt an external tension, a presence he couldn't quite grasp as he grappled with the emotional fallout. Word of Callahan's downfall spread through the office, extending long fingers of chaos throughout the hierarchy. Colleagues whispered in shadows, speculation and fear wrapping around their thoughts like tendrils. Mark stood amidst the storm he had unleashed, staring at the ruinous path behind him. Whispers fluttered at the edges of his consciousness, but they grew quiet, echoed by an emptiness he hadn't anticipated. Pressure mounted, yet in the quiet moments a new realization dawned. The whispers which had once flowed unhindered met resistance. Probing deeper into minds revealed a scalpel of tension, the sensation of being watched. Mark dismissed it initially, the product of paranoia that had become a companion through his ascent. but an unsettling truth persisted, as if a foreign whisper teased at his mental barriers. In a meeting where routines dictated mundane conversations, Mark focused on his ability as if to draw comfort from the chaos he controlled. As Callahan's replacement droned about restructuring, Mark's attention wavered, his consciousness drawn elsewhere. That's when he felt it, an intrusion from beyond the drumming whispers. A mental nudge at the fringes of his mind, testing his boundaries, as if someone or something was aware of him. The revelation captured him, the stillness of the room melting away as his heart raced. No longer was he the lone orchestrator. Another presence played in the shadows, dancing along the edges of his control. Closing himself off from the meeting, Mark understood that his grasp on the chaos no longer guaranteed protection. It opened him to vulnerabilities he hadn't anticipated, creating fractures in his constructed world. The whispers that once accompanied him with inviting promises morphed into a darker symphony, reminding him of a universal truth. Nothing comes without a cost, and every thought, every manipulation casts ripples that defy control. Mark's journey had become both his strength and his undoing, yet as he contemplated the whisper's eternally shifting nature, he knew that understanding the chaos was only the beginning. Chapter 6. Unraveling. Mark stepped into his apartment, tension woven into every fiber of his being. The day had left him exposed, with newfound doubts gnawing away at his confidence. He dropped his keys onto the table and sank into the worn leather couch, feeling the weight of silence press against him. The whispers, once comforting companions, now lingered like distant echoes, a reminder of intrusion. The thought of another probing presence had turned his sanctuary into a labyrinth of uncertainty. Looking around his apartment, Mark found solace in the mundane familiarity of his belongings. The framed photographs, the books lining the shelves, the coffee mug with faded letters, but now they felt more like artifacts from another life. He replayed the last few weeks over in his mind, each manipulation like a chess move calculated but unpredictable. There had been wins, Lisa drawing closer, Callahan's plummet, but also losses, namely the erosion of his friendship with Trevor. Sighing, Mark found his gaze lost amidst the shadows dancing on the ceiling. The darkness seemed alive, whispering secrets in a language just beyond understanding. Each flicker of shadow felt like a reminder that he was not alone, that the chaos upon which he thrived had drawn the attention of others, unseen, unknown. Fear twisted his thoughts like a storm, threatening to unravel sanity. Mark had wanted control but found himself at the mercy of a power he couldn't fully comprehend. His heart thudded slowly, and he focused on the pattern, seeking calm in the midst of mental turbulence. Rising, Mark moved toward the window. The city sprawled before him like a beating heart, its lights flickering with promises and regrets. Here, hidden in shadows, he wondered if answers lay in understanding the nature of what had become. But the whispers dulled, refusing to reveal any straightforward paths, dancing on the periphery of his awareness. With the invasion of another's presence, the comfort had once drawn now wrapped him in a cloak of isolation. Mark inhaled deeply, throat tightening with the symphony of doubts, their crescendo threatening to swallow him whole. He felt as if standing on a precipice, knowing he could not retreat but unsure of stepping forward. In this unraveling of self and purpose, Mark realized he needed to decipher the whispers anew. Only then could he face the storm brewing on the horizon, a storm of his own making, yet intertwined with the design of forces beyond his grasp. Chapter 7. Confrontation. Determined to regain control and uncover the source of his unease, Mark spent the next days treading cautiously through his interactions, aware of the presence shadowing his every move. Each thought felt heavy, weighed down by the echoes of an unknown adversary. It was during another day of routine meetings when Mark found his focus narrowing, honing in on the minds around him with a sharp intensity. He had to know who else possessed the power had accidentally harnessed. One face stood out, a new hire in the IT department by the name of James. His thoughts were deliberately muted, like stones skipped across the surface of a deep pool. Unlike others, James' mind did not broadcast in a chaotic stream, but rather it pulsed with a controlled rhythm. When their meeting concluded, Mark approached James, curiosity edged with caution. The Mont's expression remained unreadable, a lingering smile that hinted at knowing more than he revealed. As they exchanged pleasantries, Mark was keenly aware of a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Whispers huddled at the corners of his mind, reflecting the tension of two forces intersecting. James' thoughts dipped beneath the surface, eluding Mark's attempts to delve deeper. Feigning nonchalance, Mark crafted his words, leading the conversation down paths lined with implications rather than outright declarations. Yet he caught glimpses, flashes of distinguishing traits amid the storm, an understanding of chaos, shared and hidden. Mark understood he had found another like himself, though James didn't betray any acknowledgement. Their discourse remained a dance of subtleties and veiled intentions, revealing nothing overt yet communicating volumes via unspoken realms. Parting with a nod, Mark returned to his desk, the web of intrigue expanding, threads pulling tighter around him. He could no longer deny the truth. His grasp on this gift, this burden, was not unique. In discovering a kindred mind, Mark found clarity amid the chaos. He was not alone in a wilderness of thoughts. Others, too, navigated the delicate balance atop the precipice, orchestrating their own symphonies of influence. Yet beneath revelation, wariness coiled like a viper. Each action would echo wider than anticipated, every confrontation hinting at alliances or rivalries to be formed or broken. As the office bustled around him, Mark resolved to approach this new ally or adversary carefully, for with knowledge came power, and with power came a mantle waiting to be claimed, yet fraught with danger lurking within the whispers of chaos. Chapter 8. Alliance. The following week, Mark found his mind awash with a renewed tempest of thoughts, his intent swirling with an urgency to discover the path forward. With the whispers guiding his hand, he sought an ally in James amid the turbulence. Each encounter at work felt charged, a meeting of restless minds probing the atmosphere for signs of rapport or rejection. Yet an unwritten camaraderie began to form, a meeting of eyes, a nod of understanding as they navigated the intricate dance of influence. After hours, the office emptied, and Mark approached James, deliberate steps accompanied by the omnipresent chorus in his consciousness. Alone together, the echoes of others faded, leaving silence that was as anticipatory as it was unnerving. Around them, the hum of the city faintly filtered through, yet the shared space enveloped them like a world apart from reality. Mark offered his perspective, how had stumbled upon his ability to hear the thoughts of those around him, to manipulate their perceptions, much like tuning into a radio frequency others couldn't perceive.
James listened, a faint twitch of curiosity in his expression. When he finally spoke, his voice resonated with mutual understanding, carrying both caution and camaraderie, not unlike kindred spirits meeting against the winds of fate.
His story mirrored Mark's, a discovery of whispers, of chaos both alluring and binding. Yet, while Mark had been enthralled, James approached the ability with restraint, mindful of the balance between insight and interference. As they exchanged insight, whispers swirled between them, layers of secrets revealed under the cover of aligning intentions. They spoke of true potential, the untapped capabilities hidden in the folds of perception. Together, Mark and James conjectured on the nature of their gift, speculating on what might come from exploring its latent power. They pondered if others like them existed, navigating uncharted territories cloaked in shadows. Their alliance felt fragile yet solid, built on a shared burden, understanding the gravity of their actions. In the echoing chamber of whispers, Mark found a reassurance he hadn't realized he needed. The conversation wove through the night, binding them in trust as the city breathed beyond. Mark finally let himself hope that the journey wasn't one he had to face in isolation, that amid chaos an alliance might carve a pathway to clarity. Long after their dialogue faded to a quiet conclusion, Mark lingered in the office, grounded by burgeoning vigilance yet emboldened by newfound camaraderie, a partnership born from the heart of chaos. Chapter 9. Revelation days turned into weeks, with Mark and James treading the boundaries of their newfound alliance, probing the depths of their ability and testing its limits within the constraints of their everyday lives. The chaos which had once swirled relentlessly now became navigable, a puzzle whose pieces began aligning with a resonant purpose. Their exploration led them to revelations about the extent of their control over whispers. It wasn't merely a passive experience. By channeling focus, they could, though discreetly, grasp threads of influence, reining in the sporadic flashes of thought to affect the world beyond minds. Mark marveled at the potential, how to avert disaster or nurture possibilities, to become architects shaping subtle realities around them. Yet, with each unveiling, the responsibility weighed deeper in his consciousness. Amid their journey, an incident occurred which nudged them toward an unsettling truth, a moment where their influence inadvertently created a butterfly effect, rippling through unanticipated lives, leaving imprints that lingered longer than expected. During a simple outing, a casual suggestion to a stranger, a nudge to consider a different path, escalated to unexpected chaos, echoing farther than either foresaw. Mark and James watched as seemingly small changes cascaded, disrupting lives they hadn't intended to touch. The incident became a cornerstone, vivid in Mark's mind, serving as a warning. Their power wasn't absolute nor devoid of consequence. To harness influence wisely required not just skill, but ethical restraint. In the quiet aftermath, as rain streaked the windows, Mark and James drew into reflective discussion. Their power demanded reverence. Wielded carelessly, it could unravel unintended futures. Each whisper held a delicate charge, and they understood anew the gravity of choices, not just their own, but those they nudged into being for others. From chaos emerged clarity, a revelation, a call to responsibility, and a resolve to use their gift with care and wisdom, learning when to nudge and when to let thoughts unfurl as they may. Circumstances demanded observance, vigilance against reckless abandon, whispering truths neither could afford to ignore. The echoes in Mark's mind aligned with recognition of the intricate dance each thought forged across an interconnected world. Pairing intuition with integrity, Mark and James vowed to tread more lightly, to honor the whispering storms guiding them, nurturing a balance amid the enticing chaos they inadvertently courted. Chapter 10. Resolution guided by revelation. Mark and James became artists of the invisible craft, curators of whispers sculpted through action and inaction alike. As their understanding deepened, so did the stories of those around them, an orchestra tuned by insight and intention. Mark's relationship with Lisa flourished anew, their bond restored by setting true reflections rather than distortions fueled by unchecked power. The transparency offered room to breathe, sharing life beyond manipulation's intricate layers. With Trevor, Mark sought reconciliation, admitting to the betrayal within himself. Through raw, honest dialogue, the roots of their friendship found nourishment once again. Mark felt the burden lift as anger and hurt gave way to acceptance. Yet every evolution demanded sacrifices. Callahan, now expunged, carved a chapter closed but not forgotten. The lessons of betrayal, trust, and restitution were etched in Mark's consciousness, a testament to paths traversed. James remained a steadfast ally, common ground beneath chaotic skies, offering perspectives that enriched their combined journey. Together they contemplated the echoes of alteration, mapping currents with mindfulness and resolve. Through practice they honed discernment, attuning to where influence ended and liberty began. The balance persisted, fine and fragile, a responsibility carried and shared in cascading whispers. Acceptance dawned. Chaos was a prism, a scattered light within which they could discern not just patterns, but possibilities, treading paths beneath